This image is a picture of the Tower Bridge in London. I remember the very first time I went there, it looked very beautiful, and I would entreat everyone who visits London to, see this place. It's a very historical landmark in the UK. So briefly, I'll move on to the actual reason why we're here. Okay, so the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, it's more like a part of the UK government, which is in charge of giving scholarships to former colonies of Great Britain. And so any country that is within the Commonwealth, the British Commonwealth, is eligible to be under this scholarship. But then specifically, this scholarship is only given to low-income nations, especially those in Asia, like Southeast Asia and then Africa. So you have countries like Canada and then Australia, who are also part of the British Commonwealth, but then they are not eligible for a scholarship like this. It's because they are high-income nations. So under this scholarship scheme, we have, for the master's section of this scholarship scheme, we have 3 master's programs. We have the Commonwealth Master's Scholarship, and then the Shared Master's Scholarship, and then the Commonwealth Distance Learning Scholarship. So I'll take the first one. The first one is a general scholarship, which is where you have your government, your local governments. For instance, I am Ghanaian, and so the government of Ghana would nominate me for this scholarship to the Commonwealth, and then I would have the experience of going to the UK and then go study. However, for the Commonwealth Shared Master Scholarship, you have yourself doing the application. Okay, so you apply directly to on the website to the Commonwealth, and then they review your essays, and then from there you're able to be considered for the scholarship. And then we also have the distance learning scholarship, where you can be back home and then be studying abroad. So the reason for this scholarship scheme is so it operates within the framework of the Commonwealth Scholarship and then the Fellowship Plan, where it demonstrates the UK's commitment to its former colonies, or the Commonwealth. So the purpose is to train young people, young professionals who are willing to develop their careers, and then, by inviting them into the UK, train, get very good education, and then good network, and then more importantly, good resources available to be able to train and then get this great scholarship. So the reason why the one I went on was the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. So there is a reason why it's a shared scholarship. It is because it is jointly funded by the UK government and then partner UK institutions. And so where, most scholarships are funded directly by a government, for instance, the Master's Scholarship, the Commonwealth Master's Scholarship, it is just the UK government which, sponsors it. But then with a shared scholarship, the funding comes from both the UK government and then the partner UK institution. So for instance, I went to Brunel University, London, and so some of my funding came from the British government, and then some also came from Brunel University, London. And moving on, you can also apply to more than one course. And so we have like about 47 schools. We are going to look at them. You can apply to as many as you want. So you can apply to more than one university. I didn't have this information when I was applying, so I applied to only one school. But then thanks to this webinar, you guys know that you can apply to more than one university. So before you be considered for the scholarship, or when you're applying for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, you need to apply to your university as well. So universities have specific information to which you can apply to their program. So if you want to apply to a program in a different school or in a particular school, what you want to do is to look at specific, informations by which you can, you can apply. So example, again, you have like transcripts. You need transcript certificates. Some schools require GRE, some schools require IELTS, some schools require TOEFL, and then all of those international exams that you're supposed to write before you can travel abroad. Most schools, however, do not require those. So I'll use my school again, for instance, the school I attended, where they didn't require any English test or any GRE. So it is up to you guys when we list the schools, and then you are interested in any particular school, you go onto their website to look at the admission requirements and then the rules for applying. And they also have staff at the schools where you can reach out to them personally, and then they will be able to explain every single detail on their website to you with regards to admissions. So this is a website here where you can go ahead and then take a picture. This will take you directly to the Commonwealth website. This will take you directly to the Commonwealth website. And so you can go ahead and then take a picture, and then you can read more about what we are about to discuss. So moving on. So moving on, we have about 47 universities under the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. So these are some of them. The ones highlighted in red are the schools that Richmond, Faustina, and I attended. So I went to Brunel University, London. Richmond went to Newcastle University, and then Faustina is currently at St. Mary's University in Twickenham, London. And so these are all the 47 schools to which you can apply to. You start from Aberystwyth to Bangor to Bournemouth to Cranfield, Durham, Imperial, King's College, Liverpool, London School of Economics, and all the way to Wolverhampton. You have the likes of Exeter, Glasgow, Leeds, Oxford, Reading, Southampton, St. Andrews, and Bristol, Birmingham, UCL, and SOAS. All of these schools are under the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. And so if you have any interest into most of these schools, you can apply to as many as you want. And then more importantly, you want to go to the website, look at the requirements for their admissions. Next, you are going to look at the financial assistance that you get when you are being awarded the scholarship. So each scholarship provides, the first one, an approved airfare from the the scholar's home country to the UK. So I was from Ghana. So normally what happens is that after you're awarded your scholarship, they send you a link to book a flight from Accra, Ghana to Heathrow in London. So you're able to get a free flight from Ghana to the UK for free. But then this does not include your dependents. So maybe you are traveling with your wife or your kids, they are not covered under the scholarship, approved airfare cost. So for those ones, you'd have to pay the cost for that. But then when it comes to yourself, the approved airfare is being funded by the CSC. So this part of the scholarship is being funded by the CSC, as shown right here. The next part is approved tuition fees. So your school fees, during my time, my fees was about £25,000. And so all of that was being covered by our, the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. So they go ahead and then partner with, the UK university, and then they pay everything. So you don't, you know, they don't pay a certain part and then tell you to pay even 5% or even 1%. They pay for everything. And then we have stipends, which is living allowance. And so it's more like a monthly pay that is given to students who are on this scholarship. So it is given at a rate of 1,378 per month and pounds per month. And, that is for people who would be studying outside of London. I'm sure most of you know that London is very expensive. And so if you are studying outside of London, they give you 1,378. But if you are studying within London, you earn 1,690 per month. And most of these payments come quarterly. So by quarterly, I mean in 3 months intervals. So maybe for 3 months, they multiply this number 1690 by 3 and then give all of that to you. So sometimes you can earn about 5,000 when you initially arrive in the UK, and then that will last you for 3 months. Some schools, however, pay monthly. And so that is for the stipends. And then you're also given warm clothing allowance. As you know, the UK is very cold, and it rains a lot, which is, very depressing. But then if you go there, you'd have to buy a lot of umbrellas, because I had to buy about 10 umbrellas. Most of them got broken because of the strong winds and then the heavy rains. So what the Scholarship Commission does is to offer warm clothing allowance, where you're able to, I think it's about £500, yeah, during my time, or even more than that. So you are given that amount to go get warm clothing to be able to, feel warm during the winter season, and then, on cold days. Next, you have thesis grants, which is the money that is given towards the preparation of a dissertation or your thesis, and this is paid by a university. So sometimes towards the end of your 1 year, which of your master's in the UK, you need to prepare a dissertation, and most of it come with a cost. And so what you want to do is to sort of, have some amount of money to support your data analysis, most of the softwares that we use. For instance, during my time, I had to pay for some apps. I've forgotten some of their names, but then I had to pay for some apps, and then most of them were in the hundreds of pounds. And so I needed most of this money to fund that, apps. And then we have steady travel grants. And so maybe you want to travel within the UK or overseas to Europe or even to America to have anything steady related. So for instance, conferences, if you want to go there, you need to talk to the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, and they will, offer you some, grants which you can use to travel. And then before you move into the UK, you are supposed to do a mandatory tuberculosis test. I'm not sure most of you know this, but then the UK is very strict with tuberculosis, which was first called consumption. And so everyone from a highly rich tuberculosis country, it's supposed to undertake this tuberculosis test if only you've been living in the UK for more than 6 months. So because your program might last you a year or even more, you'd have to undertake this TB test. And then the cost of that is I think it's about £100. When you get there, they are going to pay off this test. So when you look at all of these, I think that almost everything related to your scholarship, from your school fees to the airfare to the stipends, and so almost everything you have, all of that have it for you. And even the visa fees. The visa fees are also free, and so you don't pay anything for the visa fees. And then for the last part, we have child allowance, where, for if you have a first child and then you are traveling with the child to the UK, the child is going to earn £590. And then for the second and then the third, they are going to earn £146 per month if they are under the age of 16. So we are looking at eligible countries. We have all of these countries. So if you find yourself coming from any of these nations, you are in good, standing to be eligible for this scholarship. So the ones highlighted in red are those that have confirmed will be joining this seminar. That is why I have them highlighted in red. So we have Bangladesh, Ghana, India, Nigeria, Pakistan, and then Uganda. Most of these people have joined us, and I'm really glad to have all of you here. Now, if you're also in any of the other nations, you are welcome, and hello in your native language. So the idea is that if you are in any of these countries, it means that you're a former colony of Great Britain and part of the British Commonwealth. And so you are eligible for the scholarship. Now, to be eligible for the scholarship, there are other things that you should also consider. So first of all, you have to be a citizen of an eligible Commonwealth country. So like by eligible, I mean that there are certain countries within the British Commonwealth which are high income nations like Canada and then Australia. But then for countries in Africa, which were British colonies, former British colonies, most of us are low income nations, okay, or even middle income nations. And so we are the class that fall under the eligible Commonwealth countries. So you need to be a citizen or a refugee within any of these nations. Next, you need to be permanently resident in the nation in which you are. So you need to be living in Ghana or Nigeria or India, okay, as at the time you are applying for the scholarship. If you live in a high income,
Sorry, Clinton, unmute yourself.
how long have I been unmuted?
No, just a minute, just seconds.
Okay. Share. Okay, so like I was saying, you need to be a citizen of a Commonwealth country. You need to be permanently resident and then be available to start academic studies in the UK by September 2026. That is the autumn term. And then this is also very important. By 2026, you should hold, by September 2026, you should hold at least an upper second class honors standard or a lower second class degree. But then if you have a lower second class, what you can do is to have a master's in addition to it before you can be considered for the scholarship. So minimum, what they want is an upper second class upper. But if you don't have that, you can, or if you have a lower, you need usually a master's to be able to, buffer it to stand a chance for the scholarship. So even if you're a student now and you are due to complete maybe in May next year or August next year, you're still eligible if only you'd be in good standing by September 2026 to earn a second class upper or a first class. But if you have a second class lower, you still have a chance. But then the clause is that you should usually have, a master's degree to support and then make a strong case for yourself. And then another criteria is to look at the fact that you've never studied or worked for more than one academic year in a high income country. So countries within Europe and then maybe America, if you've lived there before for more than a year and then you've actually worked there or studied there, you are not eligible for the scholarship. And then the next step is to be unable to afford to study in the UK without the scholarship. So you look at yourself and then, you consider your financial standing. And then if you feel like you wouldn't be able to afford studying in the UK, for instance, my school fees was about 25,000. I wouldn't have been able to pay 25,000 pounds personally. Okay, so I looked at myself and I was like, I can't pay this amount. And so the UK government will then consider you to be someone who, like needs this sort of support to be able to study in the UK. And then finally, you should have all your supporting documents in the required format. And so we have some supporting documentations that you need, and we are going to look at those ones next. So some of the supporting documents that you need for this scholarship are, first of all, a valid passport or a national ID. I'd encourage you to start getting your valid passport soon enough to be able to, get it ready before, September 2026, which is next year. Because when I was trying to apply for the Commonwealth Scholarship, this is a personal experience. Okay, so when I was trying to apply for a scholarship, I applied for my passport in October of 2021, but then I got it in June of 2022. So it took about 8 months to get it. So if you want to, get, a chance for the scholarship, I would entreat you that you apply for your passport very early so that you would be able to, stand a chance. But then when you're applying for your application or when you're putting in the application, you need either a passport or any national ID, like your Ghana card or any national ID from your country of origin. It should have your photograph, your date of birth, and then the country of citizenship. You only need a passport when you are trying to apply for your visa if you are successful with your application. The next thing you need is full transcripts for all your higher education qualifications. So by higher education, you're talking about the the tertiary level. So you need to go back to your schools and then request for your transcripts. And some nations do not speak English, or some of them don't have their official languages being English. So when you go back to our country, you can see countries like Togo over there. Okay, so a country like Togo, the official language of Togo is French. Okay, so with that, you'd have to do a translation into English, a certified translation into English of your transcript. And then you also need to have all your pages included within the transcript. So even if one page is missing, means that your application will be ineligible. So you need to look out for all of these things. You go out back to your schools and then apply for your transcripts, full transcripts from first year to final year if you are done, or from first year to the year in which you are. So normally you should be heading to your final year if you are interested in your in getting this Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. And then you also need a CV. You need to prepare a CV detailing everything you've done in terms of work and then education, where you started from. And normally, you want to talk about, first of all, you want to talk about your educational background, and then you talk about some research experiences that you've had. And then you also talk about one thing the Commonwealth is big upon is volunteering. So some volunteering work that you've done before, it will make you have good standing in your, in your application, because you've been able to, support your community. And then we need letters of recommendations from 3 referees. So when you're applying for the scholarship, you need 3 referees, okay? And then most of them should be someone who, know you personally. They should be able to write a very good recommendation letters for you. One thing I found is that, when you reach out to professors and then they tell you that, who are you? Okay, I don't remember you. It means that this person might not write a very good recommendation letter for you. Okay, which is why I always encourage people to, you know, get to know their professors, so that when opportunities like this come, they would remember you, and then they would be willing to write, recommendation letters for you. I was talking to a friend who told me that, he wanted to apply for the Commonwealth Scholarship, but then when he called his supervisor had forgotten about him. And that is, very hilarious, because first of all, your supervisor has worked with you for a while, if not 6 months, a year. So this supervisor should know you. So I was confused or even shocked to know that, your supervisor doesn't remember you. So you need people who you've worked closely with. So with the official emails, for instance, I have a personal email, which is clintonkabutey@gmail.com. But for my school email, currently, I'm a student at Central Michigan. So we have my username and at cmich.edu. So at the cmich.edu makes it an official email. So if I am to send a recommendation letter to the Commonwealth, they'll be looking out for the attachment, which is the cmh.edu. That will make it very official. So when you are talking to people, referees, maybe you have a referee in your school or at work who you want to write, a recommendation letter for you, what you can do is to ask them to use their official emails to write that recommendation letter for you. So the Commonwealth has, developed this checklist to,
Hi, Clinton.
to give out to potential. Hello?
Hi. I think you have 5
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay. So the Commonwealth has given out this checklist, and you look at it and then judge yourself to see if you stand a chance to apply for this scholarship. So you look at all of these things that we've discussed, and then if you're able to check all of them, it means that you have good standing to apply for the scholarship. So to complete the form, most of these things will be discussed by my co-host, which is Richmond, and so I'm going to skip most of this, but essentially you need to list your undergrad and postgrad university qualifications, list up to about 10 publications or prizes that you've earned over, your lifetime, and then employment history, and then the referees that you want to have on your applications. And then we also have essays that you'll be writing, about 10 essays that you'd be writing in this application. And so Richmond will be discussing that further. So after the application, you need to, sorry, just hold on. So For the essays, you have 4 parts, and then, like I said, Richmond is going to talk through all of them. You're going to talk about what you intend to do 5 years after your scholarship, your long-term career plans, and then a detailed plan of study, and then personal statements, and then how you've engaged in voluntary activities, and then the opportunities you've had to demonstrate leadership in your local communities. And then the CSC development themes, we have science and technology for development. So all the applications that you'll be applying towards, you'd have to apply under one of these 6 schemes. So we have science and technology for development, we have strengthening health systems and capacity, you have promoting innovation and entrepreneurship, you have strengthening global peace, security, and governance, you have strengthening resilience and response to crisis, access, inclusion, and then opportunity. So wherever, or at least every degree you have should fall under one of these schemes. Okay, so for instance, mine research or mine course fell under strengthening health systems and then capacity. So you look at your set or the career path that you want to take, and then decide on which of these 6 that you'd want to pursue further in your master's. And for the selection criteria, we have 3 of them. We have the academic merit, and then the quality of the research proposal, which is for the PhD applications. But then for masters, which we are more interested in, we have the quality of the study plan and then development impact. So under academic merit, you want to look at your examination results, academic transcripts, and then your referee report, which is your letter of recommendations. Then we have academic prizes and all that, and any publications that you have will make you have a very good standing when it comes to academic merit. And then we have quality of study plans. And so most of these will fall under the essays that you'd have to write, and then the developmental impact will also fall under the essays that you'd want to write to have a very good chance at the scholarship. So my dear friend Richmond is going to talk about that soon enough. So these are some of the programs that fall under. I know I have about 2 minutes more, so please pardon me. I'll be rushing through these ones. These are some of the programs that fall under each of these. So to the left of the screen, we have access inclusion. Yes.
I've been alerted you can relax and continue. So you don't have 2 minutes, you can continue. So relax.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right.
So with that, I would want to go back to look at the feedback from the selection panel. So we have a number of professors and then people who look at the applications that come through. So every year we have about 40,000 to 50,000 people applying for the Commonwealth Scholarship. And most of these people on the selection panel would have to read through all of them, all the essays, and then look at your transcripts, your certificate, to be able to determine if you're a good candidate or not. And then they've looked at some feedback that, they've given feedback as to what makes a good candidate. Okay, so we are going to look at some of them. So we have the academic merit. So successful applicants normally have first-class degrees or an extension at master's level or other relevant experience and qualifications. While applicants with upper second-class undergrad degrees or a pass at master's level do receive Commonwealth Scholarship, they are very highly competitive, and they must ensure that their plan of study and then development impact are exceptional to have a chance of being selected. So clearly from this, the selection panel is saying that if you have a first class, you have very good standing. But if you have an upper second class or a second class upper, you need to have a very strong essay to be exceptional, to stand for, to stand a chance at being selected. And then we also have the idea that, sometimes people fall sick during exams and all of that, so they didn't perform well. So if any of these factors affected your academic performance, what you might want to do is to write, or explain it in your personal statement that for these reasons, maybe I was sick, maybe I lost a parent and I couldn't focus, maybe sorry, I lost a dog or a cat, and so I couldn't focus on my studies. You can explain all of these circumstances to them, and they would consider your case and then see if, that semester when you failed your exams, you were able to make it up for in the next semesters, or, just looking at all your semesters combined, you've done well, and then you have an outlier somewhere. And so that will tell them that, oh, you're a good student, but then for one of the semesters, you didn't do well due to these things. And then looking at the impact of the proposed work on development, they place special emphasis on what you want to do when you return home. So for the scholarship, the idea is to go to the UK, go and learn, and then return back home, apply what you've studied in the UK. So you need to place great emphasis on what you want to do when you get back home in your development impact section. So that is what they are looking out for. Always specify that when I get back home, this is what I'm going to do. Okay. And you want to use all the full word that you've been given. So maybe some essays require 250 words. If you need 250 words, you need to write everything out. If you write brief statements, they might not consider you as, very convincing applicants. And so you want to use everything and then make your arguments clearly and then, very understandable. So yes. And then for the study and then the research plan, you need to be very clear. You don't have to be unclear and then very vague as to what you want to do. So maybe I want to help Ghana develop, their healthcare system. How do you want to do that? They want you to be very specific that I'm going to organize seminars. I'm going to, go on campaign trails, go to church, go to schools, teach students, Christians, Muslims alike, how to wash their hands, how to do this. You need to be very specific, and then you don't have to use jargons. You don't have to use over technical language. You need to use, so most of the selection teams, that the selection panel do not have, the specialty in your field. So maybe 3 people are looking at your essays. One of them is a scientist, one of them is, maybe a social scientist or something, and they are reading, and one of them is an engineer. So if they are all reading biological stuff, you don't want to be overly technical, okay, in your essays, or else most of them wouldn't be able to catch up. Sorry. So we have the 6 schemes under which you can apply. We have all of these courses that you can apply to from the different universities, and all of these fall under access, inclusion, and then opportunity. One thing that is big now in society in the West is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so they want to, expand horizons as to how we are able to accept a lot of, diverse people who are now represented in education and workplaces to take new roles in society. So for instance, you know that over time we've had a lot of women becoming presidents and then leaders of countries. And so this is an idea that is being championed, where you have, policies ensuring that you have a lot of women at workplaces, disabled peoples, and then people from our rainbow family. So, you have all of these people falling under the access and inclusion and opportunity. And so you have courses by which you can, apply and then develop your specialty in these areas. Moving on, we have promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. And so if you want to venture into innovation and entrepreneurship, you can take any of these courses that, have been shown up here. And, you have very supportive professors who will be able to teach you well when you get to the UK. And then we have science and technology for development. All of these courses, very good courses, and you can have a look at them on this screen and then have a fair idea as to some of the courses that you might be interested in. This is a second part of the science and technology for development. And then we have strengthening global peace, security, and governance. So if you're interested in defense and local economy and urban planning, human rights and conflict and stuff, you want to venture into any of these ones. We have nice courses like LLM, Masters in Law, Human Rights Law, they are very good courses that you might be interested in. And then these are more examples looking at terrorism, political violence, international conflict, and diplomacy, and all of that. And then coming back to strengthening health systems and capacity, we have all of these courses here where you'd be able to, select the ones you're interested in and then put in your application. Like I said, you can apply to as many as you want. And so you want to pay attention to, as many courses as possible. Sorry. And yes, so strengthening resilience and then responses to crisis. You have disaster management, food systems and management, sustainability, climate change, conservation, leadership, family and child psychology, all of these, flood risk management, and a lot of programs are shown here. So you want to look at them and then look at the career path that you want to take, and then you'd be able to, select any of them and then put in your application, put in your best work, and then you'd be successful. Trust me. So looking at the application form, this is the last part of the my presentation. So we have your nationality. First of all, when you go onto the page, you have nationality. You choose your nationality. So maybe Ghana. You choose your username and password for registration and login. And then you choose the CSE theme. So that is what I discussed in the previous slide. So you choose any of the 6 on your left. Okay, so you choose any of the 6, and from there you'd be able to choose the university and then the course by which you want to, so you need to do extensive reading on each of them, look at the requirements by the university, and look at how the course is going to help you in the end, and then you can develop further on that. So with the candidate's information, these are basic things where they ask your given name, surname, address, your state, zip code or postcode, country, phone number, address, and all of that. And then we also have nationality, date of birth, gender. Then you also have ethnicity, religion, marital status, children, occupation of your father, education, look at your mother as well. And then your academic record, you look at the country in which you studied, the name of the institution. I went to KNUST, so it was in Ghana. And then I wrote next, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Tech. And then the subjects I read biochemistry, and then institution, one date. So the dates by which, dates at which I started the course and ended, I had to indicate that any qualification that I was awarded, I was given first class in biochemistry and, all of that, any award. So that the class of award is the first class, and then the date of the award, it was in August, and then add any second university qualifications that you had, or if you did an HND, you can write that, and then maybe you did a top up into a bachelor's, you can also add that. And then you can also list, moving on to the next section, you can list the publications. Maybe you've published a paper or any prizes that you are awarded, you can add them here. And then you can also list your employment, any employment that you've had. At the time that I was applying to my Commonwealth application, or to the Commonwealth for the scholarship, I had about six. I've had about 6 different jobs. 3 of them were internships, so I counted them as a job, and the 3 of them were, were actual jobs, like national service at Kolebu, and some others. So I was able to list all of them, and that you're also supposed to give the main responsibilities. So you want to talk into details about specifically what you were doing. So you don't want it to be overly specific, but then you should have a general idea that, this was the idea and this was what I was supposed to do, and then the result. Okay, so I'm going to give an example for this. So when I was at Kolebu, okay, we're working in the lab. Okay, so what you do is that a lot of patients come in, and then you need to be taking blood samples and all. So you can say that, or in a day, I'm able to, run blood tests on about 100 patients, and, these were the results. So when you take the sample, the blood sample, you're able to run, FBC, or those are overly technical, but then we have a series of tests, and then in a month, you're able to do this. You need to quantify the numbers to be able to give them a fair idea that this is the range of work that you've done. So you need to be specific, but then not very, technical. And then next we have references. So with the references, these are for the letters of recommendation. So you need to write your referee. I use professors in tech. So I found 3 professors in my department. The first one was my supervisor, and then the other 2 were professors who knew me personally. Okay, so like I said, you need professors who know you personally, and then you'd be able to get a very good letter of recommendation. So first of all, you need their full name, their job title. So my supervisor, Dr. Frempong, his job title, he was a senior lecturer and then head of department. And then I wrote his email address, and then you need to repeat the email address again. And then what's his relationship to you? So he was like my undergrad supervisor. So I was able to indicate that. You do that for the second referee and then the third referee. And then you move on to the specific questions that are attached to the scholarship. So for these ones, Richmond is going to go into details with all of them. So an example of a question would be, provide a statement explaining how your proposed study relates to a particular development challenge or need at a global, national, or local level. So you need to, address all of these, and then the maximum is 500 words. And then you move on to career plans, objective during the award, career plans, and then long-term plans. And then next, you look at personal statements, another 500 words. voluntary, and then leadership experience, 500 words. And then you also have attachments. You need to attach your passport or national identity card, which has your photograph, your scan of your university transcript merged into one file, and then your certificate, degree certificate, also made into one file. So you are going to combine all three of them into one file and then, submit all of them. So the required format. So each file must not be more than 5. Been doing a lot of chemistry recently, so I was going to say 5 megs, 5 milligrams, but this is megabytes. So 5 megabytes in size, and must be in one of the following formats. So PDF, doc, docx, I think ODT, JPEG, and then PNG. So files submitted in any other format, including zip files or PDF portfolios, will not be accepted. So if you do that, it means that, well, first of all, they are not going to consider your application. So we have passport, transcripts, degree certificates, and then university offer letters if you have, a university offer letter already. Like I said, when you apply to the Commonwealth Scholarship, you're also going to apply to the school separately. So there are two different things. So when you submit this application, it's going to the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, but then you need to go to the university website and apply directly for the course itself too. So if at the time of your submission, if you have the offer letters from the university, if they've accepted you, you can, add that. But then at the time I was applying, I think I submitted my Commonwealth application first before I went to apply to the school directly for the same specific course. So when you're applying, you need to apply for that specific course that you've selected. And then there is checklist and then confirmation. How did you find out about the Commonwealth Scholarship? What sources did you use to find out more about? So what I want you guys to do is that when you get to this section, you can talk about our webinar that we are doing. You can indicate our names on there to specify that some of the alumni are doing great work with advertising this scholarship scheme. Then we have terms and conditions. You're supposed to, agree to this. You're supposed to confirm that you are a Commonwealth citizen and then you've been granted refugee status in there. And then you need to confirm that you're unable to afford to study in the UK without a scholarship. And then moving on, you need to confirm that all the information in the application is true and best to your knowledge. And then finally, you need to agree to this, that you've not undertaken studies or employment lasting 1 year in a developed country, which we've discussed already. And then post-award, this is the most important thing. You would return to your home country or permanent residence to seek employment or to work or to study as soon as the proposed Commonwealth Shared Scholarship award ends. So one clause with the Commonwealth Scholarship is that after studying in the UK, you need to return back home to apply the knowledge that you have. Okay, the only way you can stay in the UK after your Commonwealth Shared Scholarship is to transition into a master's, a PhD. So if you are done with your master's and you want to do a PhD, you can talk to the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission that I've gotten a PhD offer and, they are going to sponsor my visa, so I can't go home. So under those circumstances, they are going to allow you to stay in the UK. For my particular situation, I had a PhD offer in the US. So I had to tell them that I'm leaving the UK to the US to start my PhD, and then they agreed. Okay. So after agreeing to this, that you'd return to your home country, except if you've gotten a PhD, you write the date and then of the day you are going to submit the application, and then you sign finally to make sure that your application is complete. And then from there, you'd have to review everything again just to make sure that everything is intact before you submit your application. And with this, I'm going to end here, and then Richmond is going to talk to us about the essays itself and how you can put together a very good essay. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Clinton. That was a long presentation, but very insightful.
I'm sorry
Thank
about
you.
that.
No worry. It was very insightful, so no worry. So I think we have to allow for questions. Then we have few questions in the chat box. The first, hello guys. If you have any question, you can put your hands up. Okay, Richard, you can ask your question. Yeah, Richard.
Hello. Can you tell him to unmute himself?
Can you unmute Richard? Okay, if Richard is not ready, then I have this question in the chat box. I will finish my master's in September. Can I still apply? I think you answered it.
Yeah. So if you are going to finish your master's in September, I mean the application season for this scholarship is in November this year. I think it's going to start in November. So the best time to apply is, of course, after your master's. But then even if you are going to be done next year, 2026, that's when you be done. You can still go ahead and then apply. The clause is that you need to make sure that by September 2026, you are done with maybe your bachelor's or your master's. Yes.
Okay. Adedayo, I think you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening,
good evening.
So, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. So I have a few questions. Actually, I applied this year on, but unfortunately, I wasn't selected. So I have like 3 questions. Number 1 question goes this way. Is it compulsory after your program in the UK? Is it compulsory you go back home? That's number 1 question. When Clinton was going through the slide, I didn't really get the aspect of that child. Is it that Commonwealth, is it that they sponsor up to three child? And what I think, I don't know, maybe it's saying something about maybe age 16 or something. I don't know. Does Commonwealth covers, for example, let's say I'm married now and I have 1 kid or 2 kids. Is it advisable or is it permissible for Commonwealth to say, oh yeah, you're coming with your child, 2 or 3 of your child, I will cover it. Is it fully covered? And the last question as well is for someone that has 2 sittings in your O level, because we see cases whereby maybe you sat for your O level, maybe you're not able to meet up with all the subjects and you just have to do some other kind of O level to meet up. Is it advisable? Because the reason why I'm asking this question, I actually have a challenge with this. I had English in my O level, so the other program I did outside to supplement it, I wasn't given, I didn't have English there, so I had to use the 2 sittings to enter university. So it was Newcastle, so I think they have it's just a subsidiary in Lagos. So I now had to go to the office in Lagos. So the white man I met there is telling me that the reason why they won't consider these 2 sittings is because they only recognize the latest O-level I did, in which the latest O-level I did, it doesn't capture my English. I failed English. I only used the first one to combine it to enter into university. So he's now saying that I should have just ignored the latest one that doesn't have English, that they are particularly concerned about the English language. So I want you to address this as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. So with your very first question, the Commonwealth is very keen on people returning back home. So the general idea of or the purpose of the scholarship, like I indicated at first, is that you need to, so Great Britain is trying to train people, okay, as a commitment to their former colonies. So the idea is that they are going to train you and then take you back home, and then you're able to apply what you've learned in the UK. So they are very strict when it comes to going back home. So most of my colleagues that I studied with, majority of them are back home, but then yes. So it is very important for you to consider that option, that after your Commonwealth scholarship, you'd be going back home to apply what you studied and in your home country. And then with the second question, for children, I think on the page they talked about 3 kids, but I'm not very privy to the information whether you can send more than 3 kids to the UK. What you can do, however, is to, when you are given the scholarship or awarded the scholarship, you can reach out to them and then specify that, okay, I have about 4 kids, I have 5 kids. Are you guys going to fund all of them? Okay, so you need to specify all of that to them, and then they will be able to advise you on how best you can handle it. So with the first kid, they are going to earn about £500, but then for the second and then the third, it needs to be like £150 each. Yeah, and then they need to be under the age of 16. That is when they would be able to give you this amount of money to support them. But your last question on the O level,
Clinton, can I come in?
Yes, please do.
All right. So with a question on sponsorship for kids, for masters, if you with your kids, except where you are a single parent or a widow or there's another condition, yes, you can go with your kids, but they will not fund that. You would have to pay for their flight. And what I want to say is that if you are not a widow or you are not a single parent and you're going with a scholarship, then come fund any expenses for your kids. But if you're going with PhD, then they provide funding for that. I hope this is clear. Yeah, so in case he wins the scholarship, he wants to go with the wife or the kids, except you are able to prove to Commonwealth that I've got kids, but I'm a single parent, or I've got kids, but I'm a widow or a widower. You would have to take care of the expenses, whichever expenses that comes with going with your kids.
All right, thank you very much. And then with your third question, I'm not very familiar with the O level, so I wasn't able to really catch on because for Ghana we write a WASI, and it's difficult to. But then if I get your question right,
Sorry.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, yeah, we also write WASE. But in a case whereby someone is not able to meet up, we write other O level like YGC and the likes. So we use 2 sittings. So the subject I'm not able to capture in WASE, and I capture in other O level. I can actually combine it together and easy to enter universities. So in this case,
Right.
the one I applied, so the white man office, Newcastle in Lagos, Nigeria. Yeah. So he told me the recent O level that I did is not capturing English language. That had it been I know I wouldn't have used that one. That they are most peculiar about the recent grade I have with O level. So I just want you to address this, and also in the case of in the case of English tests like IELTS, can what's it called, proficiency English proficiency letter of recommendation from university, can it suffice as well?
Yeah.
Clinton,
So during my Faustina, are you saying something?
yeah, I want to help him with his question. O level.
Okay.
I think it depends on the university you are applying to. So some of them wouldn't request for your WASI or O level. They request you write an English proficiency exam. So if they require you to write an English proficiency exam, I don't think you have to present your O level or WASI results. So it all depends on the school you are applying to as well. Because my school required my WAEC certificate to prove my English proficiency. So it always depends on the school you are applying to. So as Clinton said initially, you have to check the requirements of the institution you're applying to. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So for mine, I also had to get a letter of English proficiency from KNUST. So to show that the course that I had undertaken in biochemistry was taught in English. So I think that was enough for my school. So you can go back to your school and get an English proficiency letter, and then, I think that would be enough. If not, I have a lady who, recently got funding into London School of Economics, and she needs to write the IELTS to be able to confirm her place in the program. But although she's been given the scholarship, she needs to take the IELTS first before she can start studying. So a lot of the schools in the UK might not require you to write this, IELTS, TOEFL, and all of that. But then some schools are very keen on that. And so before you apply to the schools, you need to look out for those things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Clinton. Son of Grace, you can ask your question. I think we take Another Richard. Then the questions in the chat box, we will answer them offline when Richmond is also presenting. So, Son of Grace, you can unmute.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was late to join the meeting, but the little I've heard from Clinton, I wanted to ask a question based on, is a scholarship for maybe other courses, are teachers also accepted with that scholarship? As a teacher, will you be able to apply for that scholarship, and will you be given if you applied?
Could you repeat your question again? I think your line was breaking. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, your line was breaking. Could you repeat your question again?
Yeah, I said, as a teacher, can you also apply for that scholarship, and will you be given if you applied?
Oh, yes. So, during the time I was applying for this scholarship, I was teaching. Yeah. So during the time I was applying for this scholarship, I was teaching in an international school. So yeah, if you have a fair idea as to the career path you want to take, and teaching is one important thing that, they like to support a lot. Okay. So I mean, after my PhD, I hope to teach one day. And then I made it clear to them that I am a teacher. I have this experience from the lab and all of that. I was teaching in the SHS level. And, now I've switched to, getting my master's, and then hopefully I'm able to get my PhD and then go back to teaching again. Okay, so I think that no matter the career path in which you are in good standing if only you are able to make your documents and then all the requirements, you'd be in good standing to get a scholarship. So it doesn't matter the work you do, any work suffices. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
some
okay.
of
Thank
you,
you very
have you
much.
been answered?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
Richard, you can unmute. Thank you. Richard. Okay, Sunday. Okay, Richard is here.
Please, good evening, everyone,
Good evening.
and thank you very much for the opportunity. And before that, I would like to thank you all for putting in this initiative to give back to your community. Let me say, we are your community now, because I've been following Clayton. I used to call him Blogspot, GH Blogspot, for a couple of years, and I was happy putting this effort, and I'm happy that I'm benefiting today from him. So my first question is about the first class, second class matter. So currently, the university I'm attending is a private university, and our first class rate is different from other universities. So ours is 3.85 to 4.0. That's the first class. And other universities, their first class is like 3.0 or 3.2 to 3.5. So before they select a student, do they uh, consider those things before they will pick up a student or not for the classes side? And my second question is, I'm having a team that we are working on entrepreneurship something, and maybe if there's an opportunity to be in the UK and study for my master's, and I do need to come back to my country and then give back to not only the community, to give back to my country, will they provide some funds that if maybe I'm coming back, for example, if I studied entrepreneurship and technology and innovation, I saw something like that. So would they support me with funding? Maybe since I've started a business in entrepreneurship or in anything that is related to solving a huge problem in Ghana. And currently, I and my friends and I, we are solving plastic waste recycling. We are converting this plastic waste into petrol and then diesel. So if I'll be granted for such an opportunity and I'm coming back to Ghana, would they give me fund or any other thing to come and support such an idea to be a big solution for not only Ghana but for other countries to also benefit from it? Thank you.
Yes. So with your very first question, with the first class and then second class issues. So every school have their own way of, determining what is first class or second class, upper, lower. Okay. So I think that they are going to take it at face value that this is what your transcript says. And so if 3.8 is a first class, that's what they are going to accept. But then if a different school comes and then says that 3.00 is a first class, they are going to take it like that. When you are applying to the challenge, however, is that when you're applying to maybe the US, this is what I've seen in the US. When you're applying to the US, we have what we call WES, which is I've forgotten the name, but then they evaluate your transcript for you and then compare it to their standard. And so maybe if you have a 3.85, when they do their evaluation, it might go down to maybe 3.5 or 3.4, and then they can grade you based on that. When I look at tech, I went to tech, and so I'm going to use tech, for instance. In tech, 70 was A. Okay, so 70 was A, and then 70 was a first class. But then when I went home and then spoke with some of my friends in Legon, what I realized is that I think they had 80 as A, and so they were making fun of our, our grading system. And I was also saying that our grading systems are different, so they can't make that assumption. It will shock you to know that in the US, in my PhD program that I'm currently studying, A is at 93. Okay, so to get A is 93. Even if you score 86, that's a B minus. Getting 86 is a B minus. If you get 70, that is a fail. Okay, so it tells you that across the world, the grading systems are different. And so, like I said, they are going to take it at face value if this is what your transcript says. If 3.8 is a first class, they are going to accept it. If 3.0 is a first class, they are going to accept it. With your second question, with giving back to society, you were asking if they were going to give you funding to support any cause. So that is a very good question, because I'm currently on my phone here, and I don't know if it's very visible onto the screen, but then on the 11th of June, we sent an email which read that Alumni Community Engagement Fund, which is something that you can apply for. We have a lot of people who have returned back home. And so this fund is there. You can apply for it, and then you can use that money or that funding that you have to, um, to champion your ideas that you have. For instance, you're saying changing plastics to, petroleum products. That is a very good idea. Okay, so they have all of these funding and then support systems in there. And then we also have the British Council in every country in which which is part of the British Commonwealth. And so you'd be lucky to have, first of all, this funding, which is the Alumni Community Engagement Fund. And then you also have the British Council, and then you can talk to them and liaise with them. And then from there, you'd be able to champion your ideas. Yeah, so there is that support after returning back home.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Clinton. I think we have we have more questions, but I don't know.
So were there questions? Could you
Pick
guys
more
type?
questions. Okay,
Yeah.
I think let me pick Bruno, then Martin, Samuel, Obi Banya. I'm sorry, you have to type your question, or when Richmond is done, you can also bring the question up if it's not answered. So Bruno, you can unmute and ask your question. That will be the last question we can pick for now. Bruno.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello.
Or it's Sunday. Sunday, you've asked your question. Oh, it's Sunday.
Sunday. Yes, good evening.
Yeah, Sunday.
No, I've not asked my question.
Sorry, Sunday.
Okay, thank you, Mr. King. All right, thank you, Mr. Kingsley, Mr. Clinton, for a very good presentation.
Amazing.
You said we can apply to many schools as we want, so I want to know, is it possible for them to waive application fee? Like, for example, now you want to apply to like 5 schools, would they waive the application fee? Then secondly, during my undergraduate, I actually volunteer for humanitarian open street map and also youth mapper. I was a youth mapper president in my school. So during my time, we won the community, outreach award. Is it okay to include that in my essay? And again, individually, I also won an undergraduate scholarship, which is Petroleum Development Trust Fund Scholarship, PTDF. So if I'm writing my essay, can I also include that as part of the award that I've won, something like that? So I just need clarification on that.
Okay, so with the very first question, it will shock you, but then most of the universities do not require application fees. Okay, so when I was applying, I was thinking that would be paying a application fee. So that was why I applied to only one school. But then it turned out that we weren't going to pay for any application fees, not for the Commonwealth and not for the university. However, some schools require application fees for their programs. So again, you need to check the school that you're applying to and then the program, and then identify whether they require you to pay application fees or not. When it comes to the issue of waiving application fees, that is a case by case, you know, um, issue. So you need to send them an email to be able to, look at your case and then determine whether you'll be able to earn an application fee waiver. Personally, I've not heard anyone, applying to a university in the UK, and then, most of it is free, and so hardly would you hear anyone paying, except for the schools that I've applied to before, Manchester, Cambridge, and I think Oxford. They all required me to pay application fees, but I don't know about the other schools. So you'd have to check and then also send them an email to see if they would be willing to waive your application fees for you. For the US, I know that they waive application fees because most of the applications I did to the US, I hardly paid anything because everything was waived for me. And then for your second question, we have community outreach certificate. So it's very good. So that is essentially what the Commonwealth is looking at. What have you done back home? Okay, so when you're writing your essay, it's more like bragging. Okay, um, so you need to put yourself out there. Okay, when I was in Ghana, I realized that everyone is so down to earth. Everyone is trying to be humble, not be loud about their accomplishments and all. But then after traveling, I've realized, especially in a place like America, I've realized that if you are quiet, people don't listen to you. Okay, so you need to make your voice known. You need to say what you've done before. It's more like bragging, but then in a very good way. So I would say that it is very good that you have this experience of community, outreach, and then you should include that into your essay. It shows that you have this commitment to society. When I was in Ghana, I used to do, we would go around, we had this blood bank group, would go around and then be gathering people at bus stops and then schools where, we'll be having blood donation exercises. So I have to include that, and I think that it made my application very good. So I would encourage you to add that to your application. And then for the third one, I think that you need to add your scholarship award during your undergrad. You know, that that gives a fair idea that one, you are very intelligent, and then from your second question, you've done community outreach, and they want to build upon what people have built upon already. That way they know that you can be trusted, when you are given more. Okay, so I think that you need to essentially brag about all of these things, and then it is going to give you very good standing, because what you are looking at is about 45,000 applications every year. Okay, and about 600, 500, 600 are going to be given the award. That makes it about 1.5% success rate. So that is like 1 out of 100. So you need to essentially brag about your achievements. And this, I'm treating everyone to, do this. Just brag about your achievements, and, that is going to go a long way to give you a very good standing with your application. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clinton. Thank you. I think at this point, we have to end the question and answers here. But we are going to open floor for questions again. We have to rush into how to write the impact, how to write the essays. Yes. And as Clinton earlier mentioned on, it's a very competitive award. And your essay should be outstanding and exceptional. It should be exceptional, it should be outstanding. So how do you write that exceptional and outstanding essay? Richmond is going to take us into it. And after that, Martin, I've seen your message. We are going to allow you to answer the question. We are not in a hurry. We are here to help. So Richmond, I think you can take over. Thank you, Clinton. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, thank you, Clinton. That was a detailed presentation. I couldn't imagine I could speak for so long as you did. I mean, last week.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, 2 hours.
Yeah, it's good in a way. Yeah.
Richmond, can we see you?
Can you see me? Can you see me?
Yes, yes, we do.
Both see you and they can
All
read
right.
your lips. Appreciate it.
The man of the moment.
All right. Well, so thank you everyone for making time to attend today's session. So I'm going to talk about how to write the essays, and I'm going to be a bit brief. The essays are grouped into various sections. We have the impact statement, personal statement, career objectives or career plans. You also have study plans. Yeah. So if you look at the scoring criteria that Clinton showed initially, you would realize the impact essays are different from the other essays. Even how to write your employment history is something that you probably would also have to master. So it's not just about writing, no, when I go to work, I see patients in consulting room. Those are the responsibilities, but you want to show that you're doing well in the role. So like Clinton indicated, you want to write it in a form of achievement. Well, I'm able to see 50 patients in a day, providing medical consultation and treatment, helping them plan treatment. So instead of writing, I provide consultation, you want to quantify it for whoever is reading to see the guy is making impact in wherever they work. Yeah. So for tonight's presentation, I'm just going to touch on the impact statement. I don't want to make it so long because it requires a lot of time grappling how this should be written, and it requires time to do a lot of research, reading, writing, editing, rewriting. Yeah. I'm going to share my screen briefly. Just a moment. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, yes, we do.
You can see the screen.
Yes.
Or
Yeah,
I
we
should
do.
put it in a full in a presentation style.
Oh,
Wow.
that would be better.
Is it better now?
You can enlarge it. You can take the screen.
It's in a slideshow.
Still in the slide form.
I thought I put it in a presentation form. Don't know. Is it still the same?
Yeah, it's still the same, but then you can go ahead and then present.
All right, let me move on. Okay, so as I mentioned initially, the essay is grouped into various components, but the key among them is the impact essays. So see the Commonwealth Scholarship application as a grant application. It's not just like essay, writing essay, but it's a grant application you're making. And what you're telling the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission is that your respective home country or the community where you live or the town where you're coming from, or even the world at large has got this specific problem that needs to be solved. And I need training to be able to help solve the problem. So it's not just as writing essay, but you're convincing them that there's a huge problem that needs to be solved. And then to be able to do that, you need training. So how do you tell this problem? This is where the difference comes in. So the one who was selected over the one who was not, even though the other are scoring criteria, but basically it's about your problem statement. Okay. So for tonight, I'm just going to talk about the impact statement. Subsequent ones, these are things I can capture in one meeting. The other ones, yeah. But I want to lay more emphasis on impact statement because that is where the scoring lies. Now, these are the questions come. So you open the application portal and the first impact statement question goes this way. Explain how the proposed scholarship relates to development issues at the global, national, and local levels. Explain how it connects to your CSC development theme and the wider sector. So remember Clinton mentioned 6 themes: health. Clinton, can you remind me of what you mentioned initially?
Yes. So first of all, we have health, and we have so we have access, inclusion, and opportunity. We have promoting innovation and entrepreneurship, science and tech, strengthening global peace, security, and governance, strengthening health systems and capacity, and then resilience, and then responses to crisis.
Great.
Yeah.
So it might be quite confusing if you see a question like this and you're wondering what are these guys asking for. So what they mean is that tell us a problem in your home country, your city, your community, or even the global level that you want to address. What it also means is that explain how the problem is linked to Commonwealth Scholarship Commission's development themes, which Clinton just mentioned, and the wider sector. So it may not necessarily be the Commonwealth development themes, but themes at the global level, such as sustainable development goals. It could be national development goals, or it could be local development agenda. Yeah, but in either case, it might fit somewhere within the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission themes. All right, so how do you tell the problem? So there's a format for writing a problem statement. It might not fall within this chronology, but it must contain these essential elements. So typically, you would start by telling us the statistics or the background about the problem you want to address, which I will show in my next slide. Then you would tell us the population or the subpopulation or community most affected by the issue. And then you would also highlight the stakeholders involved in the issue, which could be government or it could be local development partners, it could be NGOs, it could even be the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission themselves, or it could be the UK government. And then you tell us how the problem is impacting people's life or livelihood and the potential implications if the problem is not addressed and how that links to development theme. So this is a sample I provide. I moved away from health, which is my background. Yeah. So I've written a personal, a problem statement, which has the components I've mentioned above there. So like I indicated, the first is to tell us the statistics or give us a background information about the problem you want to talk about. So in this sample, I want to talk about hunger as a problem in Ghana. And I start with the statistics as I've mentioned initially. So about 4 in 10 Ghanaians go hungry every day. So that goes for the statistics and the data and background. But which population are most affected? So that is the people who move from rural communities to settle in urban areas. They bear the full brunt or the highest burden of daily food insecurity in Ghana. Remember that this statement, and you must consistently include references, which is also a proof that you know how to write academically. So it couldn't just come off head, say, without including any references. Yeah. It gives credibility to what you've written. If somebody or the one assessing your essay wants to trace to see what you've written, then they can go back to the Ghana Statistical Service 2025 probably website to see that. Yeah. So although the government of Ghana has made some progress or initiatives called the No Hunger Project, and that has contributed to reducing hunger prevalence from 37.8% in 2016 to 35 in 2020. A recent report from the World Bank show that prevalence of moderate to severe food insecurity is rising. So it increased from 36.6 in 2022 to 42.4% in 2024. And the rates are even higher among urban poor. So here again, I've mentioned the population most affected. You remember in the first sentence, I stated it most affects people who move from rural communities to settle in urban communities. And especially the urban poor, food insecurity is a major problem. And recent statistics from the World Bank indicate that it increased from prevalence of food insecurity, increased from 36 to 42 between 2022 and 2024. Now, why it is a problem is when you start telling us why it hasn't been solved. So remember, I've stated up there that the government is doing something to address the issue, and yet it still persists. Why does it persist? It persists because of climate variability. So with recent changes in climate affecting farming, food accessibility being a challenge, people obviously will go hungry and people will become food insecure. So they may not know where their next meal is coming from. They are uncertain whether or not they are even going to eat the next evening or the next morning. And that is about food insecurity. Yeah. So the key barriers include climate variability, high unemployment rate. So if somebody is moving from rural community to the urban center and is unemployed, then they have no means of living. They can't afford food. You know, in urban communities, food prices are expensive compared to rural areas. Yeah. And there's also lack of strategic national policy framework. I brought this because this is where I am going to base most of my essays as we proceed. So there's lack of strategic national policy frameworks, and the evidence is coming from the Food and Agricultural Organization. The best is not to write in abbreviations, but I did so because I have only 200 words. I didn't mention here, you've got only 200 words to tell us a problem. And the problem you are telling, somebody is almost telling the same thing, perhaps in the same country. and in the same community. So if you're in Nigeria and writing about food insecurity for a particular state or community, there's somebody also in Nigeria perhaps writing the same problem. So the question is, who should we select? Yeah. So back again, I've mentioned why the problem persists, even though the government is doing well, but the problem is still there. It is there because of climate variability or changes. People are unemployed, especially those who move from rural communities to urban communities. They can't afford food. And there's also lack of strategic national policy frameworks that could guide food distribution or cater for people, vulnerable populations like the urban poor. So what has the problem caused? This problem has had far-reaching impact. And recent studies have linked the food insecurity and the hunger issues to increases in theft, narcotic trade, and use. So if somebody is not working, they may find other means of making money in order to feed, in order to cater for themselves. Yeah, so that might lead them into theft, narcotics trade and use, sex trade, and widespread physical and mental health deteriorations in Ghana. I also brought a reference here. Why do you think it's important to study the course you want to study? So here, it captures both the potential implications, and I'm building a point to buttress why I want to study the program that I have applied for. So addressing this multifaceted problem calls for rigorous research and also evidence-based policy design. Remember, I've set up here under the barriers that there is lack of strategic national policy framework. So when I go here again, I indicated that the issue is a multifaceted one. It requires rigorous research and understanding. So to address every problem, you need to understand how the problem came about, the population was affected. That is why I've included all that. The policy actors involved, which is the government of Ghana, and then the barriers to addressing the issue. When you understand all these, then you're able to make a very strategic policy or program to address them. Yeah. So addressing this multifaceted problem would need rigorous research and evidence-based policy design. So the question will be, okay, is that there are no people in Ghana or specialty or master's degree in food security, or the problem you've talked about, is it that there are people, that there are no resource people to be able to do that? If I were the one reading your essay, that would be my argument. So there are questions that comes up as people read the essay. Okay, you've written a very nice essay. You got here. Then the reader goes like, is it that there are no people in Ghana with expertise in food security and policy? Yeah, so I will not wait for the examiner to think about that. Then I'll add it, that addressing the problem, I know, is multifaceted. It will require rigorous research, evidence-based policy design. But the area still lack significant or does not have human resource to be able to do that. And so what? And so a postgraduate degree in food security and policy would equip me. So here I begin to tell the transferable skills I anticipate I will get from the program and how that is going to be used to address the problem, even though there's a section that is going to talk about that. But it's part of the whole package of writing a grand problem statement. Yeah, so the master's in food, so it's a master's in food security and policy, will equip me with advanced analytical skills, stakeholder engagement strategies. Remember, I said it's multifaceted, so you're going to work with a number of people from different sectors. And so you need expertise to be able to make that engagement, bring people from different sectors, bring people with different expertise to be able to address the issue. I'll talk about that later on. Commonwealth is more interested in partnership, collaboration, and saying, I'm going to collaborate with these people, I'm going to partner with these people to do this, instead of saying, I will do that, I will do this. Say, I will collaborate with, I will partner with, in collaboration with, in partnership with. Yeah, so it goes not just here, but also in future applications. You might be making like PhD applications. If it goes the same way, then you want to speak in that tone. Yeah. So a postgraduate degree in food security and policy would equip me with advanced analytical tools and skills, stakeholder engagement strategies and intervention frameworks to help. I didn't say to address, but to help or to contribute, because I couldn't do it alone, you know. So you are also careful about the tonation you use. Yeah. So instead of saying to help, I could say to collaborate or to contribute to addressing the problem. So if you don't address it, what is going to happen? Even though you've mentioned that there, that recent research have linked theft, narcotic drug use, and sex trade, and mental health issues to hunger and food insecurity. That is what we know in the past. But what are the potential impacts it might have on the affected population, or how does it link to development? Yeah. So now I come back to the part which says explain how it connects to CSC development theme and wider sector. And that is what I explain here. Explain how the problem is linked to Commonwealth Commission's development theme and wider. So it could be global, such as the Sustainable Development Goals, National Development Indicators, and that. And that is what I've highlighted in red. So with our strategic measures, Ghana risk achieving Sustainable Development Goal 2, which is no hunger. So by 2030, we are anticipating that nobody will wake up in the morning and say, I feel hungry but can't access food. And this is a global development agenda that the Commonwealth and the UK government subscribe to. And it still links back to the development theme. So there are a number of themes that this one links to. It links to equity. Do you remember I've mentioned that the population most affected are the urban poor and rural to urban migrants. So why is not affecting the urban rich but poor? That's a question of inequality. And it's one of the semantic areas. If you're filling the application, there are semantic areas that you would select, which you can find from your essay. Yeah. And the cost, if later we decide that we are going to address the issue, the cost may even be higher, because it means you would have to cater for the problems that the hunger has created, which includes sex trade, which includes narcotic trade and use, which includes widespread physical and mental health. You would have to deal with them all before you come to address the main issue, which is about hunger and food insecurity. And that is why it is important to address it at this moment. And to address it, you need expertise in food security and policy, an area that Ghana today still lacks. Then you end the story. There's more than 200. It's about 214. And I just drafted it, but I would have reduced it by 14 words. But just to give you an idea about how a good problem statement for grant, like the Commonwealth Scholarship application, will go. So if you are reading it as the examiner, this is what you'll be expecting. But for in 10 Ghanaians go hungry every day, and that should be worrying, with rural urban migrants bearing the full brunt of daily food insecurity. Although the government of Ghana's No Hunger Project has contributed to reducing hunger prevalence from 37.8% in 2016 to 35% in 2020, recent World Bank reports show prevalence of moderate to severe food insecurity rising from 36.6 in 2022 to 42.4 in 2024, rates that are even higher among urban poor communities. Key barriers to addressing this problem include climate variability, higher unemployment rate, and lack of strategic national policy frameworks. The impact of this problem has been far-reaching, with studies linking it to the recent increases in thefts, narcotics trade and use, coerced sex work, and widespread physical and mental health deterioration in Ghana. Addressing this multifaceted problem calls for rigorous research and evidence-based policy design, an area where there is still significant human resource gap. A postgraduate degree in food security and policy will equip me with advanced analytical skills or tools, stakeholder engagement strategies, and intervention frameworks to help address this problem. Without strategic measures, Ghana risks achieving Sustainable Development Goal 2, which is no hunger, and the cost at a later date may even be higher. Then you end it there. So that is the first question. The second question is a match. Handle West. Explain how you intend to apply your new skills once the scholarship ends. So after the program, it is assumed that you return to your home country. And the problem you've mentioned up there, which you told the UK government to train you to go and address. You're back home. How are you going to use the skills that you said they should give you? Now you have the skills. How are you going to use that to address the problem? And this is what they are looking for. So how are you going to apply the new skills? How you're going to collaborate with the institutions. I've mentioned up there that you can't solve hunger issues alone. There's no way you can do that. And so you need collaboration, you need partnership, strategic and meaningful partnership. So Commonwealth is interested in seeing how you're going to tell them how you would apply your new skills and how you're going to collaborate with institutions, local non-governmental organizations and policymakers to help address this. And in the long term, how you're going to maintain inclusive change through these partnership and collaborations. So how will a sample go? All right. So drawing on existing professional networks, something which I learned from my previous interview at Cambridge. So the professor was interested in seeing me mention that I have existing networks. She was interested in seeing this because it takes time to build networks. So imagine that I get back to, say, Ghana, and I have very
Now you're muted. What? Richmond, you're muted. Sorry.
Is it back?
Yeah, it is.
All right, good. So what I was saying is to begin your question on how you're going to apply the knowledge with what existing networks you have. And this is something I learned from a recent interview at Cambridge, where the professor was particularly interested in me mentioning that I have existing networks with people who I'm going to work with after the program. Yeah. So drawing on existing professional networks, I plan to collaborate with the policy division. Remember, I've mentioned up there that today Ghana lacks people with expertise in strategic policy development, especially in the context of food security. So, like I told you, based on what I have written up there, the essay is going to flow in that manner. There's a connection. So see this like I'm telling a story, and I've told you the problems up there, and now I'm going to tell you how I'm going to apply the knowledge to address this problem. So, drawing on existing professional networks, I plan to collaborate with the policy division of the Ghana Ministry of Health. So this one should have been Ministry of Food and Agriculture. because the problem links more to food than health, even though it has health impact. I feel it would be more appropriate to use food and agriculture. Yeah. So I plan to collaborate with the policy division. So I've mentioned collaboration here, and I've mentioned policy division of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. So I didn't mention any other division but policy because I've mentioned that there is the need for strategic policy. Clinton, can you mute? Somebody's microphone is still on. All right, so the first point, this handovers, I don't know if it is more than that, but collaborate with the policy division of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture to co-create. This is a very important word. So I'm not going to do it alone. Co-creation means I'm involving all the stakeholders and partners involved. So the people most affected, I will involve them. The Ministry of Health, food security sector, I'm going to involve them. So there are important words that you want to include in your essay: collaboration, co-creation, partnership. Yeah. To embrace what you've said initially. Initially, you've told the reader that it's a multifaceted issue, which means that not a single sector can address it. It means you're going to work with various sectors. And so the idea of collaboration, partnership, and co-creation will run through your essays as and when they are needed. I also draw on expertise from, so I presume that I was making the application to LIS. This is something I just generated. So this is not a real problem. Sorry, a real course application. Yeah. So I will also draw on expertise from University of LIS. So it could be University of Cambridge, it could be University of Glasgow, whatever. Global Food and Environment Institute to adapt international best practices to Ghana's context. So adaptability is very important. It means I am not just going to study in the UK, I'm going there to learn best practices which are transferable and can be adapted to a local context. Yeah. Also through joint initiatives with, so I've mentioned here joint, I didn't say I'll do it alone. So joint initiatives with local NGOs, such as, then you break example, I will contribute to building inclusive monitoring systems and participatory food security programs. With these cross-sector partnership highlighted again, I aim to strengthen national response strategies and support Ghana's commitment to achieving Sustainable Development Goal 2, which is no hunger. Then that ends the question on explain how you intend to apply the new skills. Later on, you are going to expand this when you get to your short-term career plans. So you'll be given a question in 300 words. Tell us how you're going to tell us about your career plan in the next 5 years, which many people may sometimes. Your first 5 years career plan is dedicated to the problem you've written. So you've told the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission to train you. And when you get back to your country, you're going to use the knowledge to address the problem you stated. You couldn't just jump off and say, so I've written a very nice problem. I've told them that when I go, I'm going to collaborate with all these people to help address it. Then I get to career plan. Then I say, in the next 5 years, I want to be a lecturer at a university. Yes, if you're a lecturer, maybe you may be teaching something related to food policy or something. But that does not align with what you stated up there, where you said you're going to partner with these people, you're going to collaborate with that. And so you miss it out. And that is where you break off from what you. So in their mind, it may be that, oh, this guy wants to just get the opportunity and then not necessarily to address the problem he has mentioned. Yeah. So that is why I told you that the essay tend to run through, it's like telling a story. So every part should be connected to the other. Yeah. So that is this section. The next is to outline what you expect will change in development terms following the scholarship, including the outcomes that you aim to achieve, the time frame for their implementation, and who the beneficiaries are. I've seen samples where people write in passage, so they write it in passage. But typically, these questions would require you to write them either in bullet points or in numbering. If you're familiar with how the Sustainable Development Goals have been written, this is exactly what the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission expects you to write them. So bullet points, you look at samples down there. But what should you include? There are very key things you need to include in here. Every point must be smart. Smart in the sense that it must be simple, measurable. It must be, what again?
Realistic.
Yeah, it must be time bound and other things. Yeah, it must be realistic. And yeah, good. So what do you need to include? You need to include population and setting. You need to include time frame. There should be a measurable indicator, a quantifiable change. There's something you must note. There's difference between impact and output. So impact, outcome are similar, almost the same, but quite different from output, which I've seen people say sometimes include. Let me give you an example. Imagine that I've written about, let me go back to health. Imagine I've written about malaria as a major issue in Ghana, and I've given all the statistics. And I've said one of the major issues is that people do not sleep under insecticide-treated mosquito nets. And despite whatever, they don't sleep under that, or perhaps they don't even have it. And then when I get here, I say, okay, after the scholarship, maybe I'm going to collaborate with the Ministry of Health to provide insecticide-treated net to say 2,000 people. That is a typical output work I have done. So providing insecticide-treated net to somebody does not mean they're going to sleep under it. I've seen people using insecticide-treated net, new ones, to make fences for gardens in their homes when they don't sleep under insecticide-treated mosquito net. Yeah, so you may give it to the person. They don't use it for what you intend they would use it for. So you've done the output. The output is by sharing insecticide net. You've given it to 2,000 people. But the real impact or outcome is where people sleep under it. The real impact or outcome is where prevalence of malaria has reduced. It's where incidence of malaria has declined. That is where you say you've made impact, not when you've. So imagine that you've shared 2,000. Nobody sleeps under it. The problem is still there. Does that not mean that you've wasted whoever sponsored you money? Yeah, you've wasted their money. So the real impact is when people are sleeping under insecticide-treated net. Now we can confidently say that prevalence of malaria among this population has reduced since we gave them the net. And you can boldly say that even if not your intervention has contributed to that. Yeah. The next one will give you samples of how it should be. So there's a typical example of how I'm still going back to the food security thing. Remember, I've mentioned certain things that must be included: population, certain time frame, measurable indicators, quantifiable change. Good. Okay, so the expected outcome of the project will be, then you start listing them. This could be bullet points, it could be numbers. A reduction in moderate to severe food insecurity among rural to, so the indicator here is moderate to severe food insecurity. There's an indicator, measurable or quantifiable indicator. So among rural urban migrant households in Accra. This is the population and setting. Not just in Accra, but informal settlements in Accra. So this is population and setting. So I've gotten the population and setting. I've gotten the quantifiable change from 42.2%. Remember, the baseline was 42.2% food insecurity. So I expect that following my intervention, food insecurity prevalence would have reduced from 42.4% to 29.7%. So this is the quantifiable outcome here. And then I add the time bound, 2029, full stop. So this is a smart impact statement. If you want more samples, you can check the Sustainable Development Goal 2. They've listed quite a couple of them, cutting across food, hunger, food insecurity, and stuff. Another one is engagement of at least 50% of target population in urban agriculture and vegetable gain initiatives by December 2029. So it's still among these rural urban migrant populations. But because I have stated it here, that is why I didn't bring it. But if I have more space, or if I still have word count, I would still repeat the rural urban migrant household down here. And it still captures all the things I have mentioned up there. And then this is I feel this is one of the strongest among them. There will be a formal adoption of a minimum of 2 evidence-based policy briefs on urban food security by the Ministry of Health. Remember I said we lack strategic policies. So in my thinking, yes, I have done interventions, but I should be able to write policy briefs, submit to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, make follow-ups, and advocate for them to include it in their policy guidelines or policy frameworks. And I anticipate I'll be able to do this by 2029. Then it ends. I highlighted this because it seems to me that this is more of an output than outcome. So I said I'm going to have 12 multi-sector coordination meetings. So if you hold meetings, that is not the end of the story. And so, yeah, you might have people attending the meeting, but if they don't adopt your policy brief, it might just be a meeting. So I felt this is a typical example of how an output may look like an outcome. You've held several policy briefs, policy meetings, and yet no adoption of any of your policy briefs. That is still an output, not outcome. Yeah. So the first 4 are classical samples of how you would write your expected outcome of the project. Yeah. Be careful not to sound so causal. Yeah, so if you're familiar with research, you don't want to claim that every change is as a result of your work. Yes. So you say, why you want to state something, you may say it has contributed to. So I was very strategic in putting it this way. I wouldn't say, instead of saying my project would help reduce moderate, or my project will reduce moderate to severe food insecurity. That could be quite difficult to achieve because it would involve a lot of analytical work even to be able to claim that the changes made in food security is as a result of your impact. But I presume that other people are doing other things and we are all working together And so the glory is shared among us all. And that is why I was careful in putting it this way. So the expected outcome of the project would be a reduction. It could be solely my work, or it could be work other people have done, or a collaboration of what I have done and what people are doing elsewhere. Yeah. Who will be the beneficiaries of your project? A lot of people benefit. So remember I said when I come, I'm going to collaborate with a lot of teams, Ministry of Health, NGOs. In either sector that I go, obviously I'm going to contribute an idea or two. I'm going to, contribute my skills there. So they will benefit from that. So it starts from the immediate beneficiaries, who will be the rural to urban migrant families in Accra's informal settlement, other informal sector workers, children under 5 and pregnant women who are also vulnerable to food insecurity and hunger, local non-governmental organizations and community-based organizations working in this sector, youth and women's networks. So Ghana has these youth employment agencies working in agriculture and agribusiness. So they're also going to benefit from my knowledge because I'm going to collaborate with them. Then districts, agricultural officers or planning officers, urban development committees, policy division of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Yeah. So these are the beneficiaries. The questions are together. The question, where is it? So the question is together. So if you're writing it, or if you're writing it on the application portal, you put it this way. You first write the expected outcome. Then you put the beneficiaries.
That you're muted.
I don't know why it keeps happening this way. Sorry. I was just on the last part. Like I told you, I'm just touching on the impact statement today. Yeah. So where did I leave off? Clinton.
I think it was about 30-second break.
Okay. Was I here? Oh, that should be the next question. I think it should be this, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Yes.
So in 100 words, tell us how you're going to assess all that you've mentioned. So you said moderate to severe food insecurity prevalence is going to reduce from this rate to that. Yes, you've mentioned them all. How are we going to see that that has happened? So there's a typical evaluation research. So it's just like writing the methodology section of an evaluation research. Okay. So what do you need to include there? So there should be a clear approach to quantify and verify the real world changes you expect to see. You should also highlight the type of evidence you'd be interested in looking at, the quantitative or qualitative. You should have an evaluation design and methods. And then you should tell us how you're going to report your findings, how you're going to share them. Yeah. This is a sample. So an extensive evaluation plan detailing the scope and objectives will be finalized in consultation with the project stakeholders before you start your project. So you've mentioned that you're going to work with a large team, many stakeholders. So you're not doing it alone. So if you're implementing the project, you must have in mind that you're going to do project evaluation. It isn't that you are just going out there, giving people money, providing education, and doing all that you said you're going to do without assessing it. You wouldn't know whether you've made impact or not. So as part of your plans or before the launch of your project, you should have an evaluation plan, and the plan should detail the scope and objectives. And you should discuss this in detail with all those involved, including the rural, urban migrants, the food and agricultural organization, all organizations that will be involved in your project should be on board. And then you should list also in the standardized indicators like the food and agricultural organizations, food insecurity, experience skills, household food consumption scores, minimum dietary diversity and meal. And you collect data systematically at the baseline. So you have the baseline data about the prevalence of food insecurity. When you start your project, midline, you collect data about prevalence of food insecurity. And at the end of the 5-year project, if you're doing it for 5 years, you collect data there. Now compare the data from the beginning to the mid to the final end to see whether the prevalence was reducing as you anticipated initially here. You remember you said there'll be a reduction of moderate to severe food insecurity. So to be able to know that this has happened, you must have evaluation plan, which you would write in consultation with the stakeholders. And you must list the indicators you would look out for during your project implementation. And then you should collect data using household surveys. I just listed some of them, but may not be relevant to your essays. Yeah, so it could be household surveys, it could be digital monitoring tools, it could be qualitative methods. Ask people how they feel, how their lives have changed after a particular intervention, and that. And that is something that I've seen is most common in the UK. You don't just write about quantitative outcomes. They also want to hear about people's experiences and say, oh, before this guy's intervention, this was how you felt. You felt insecure. Even before you went to bed, you were not so secured or so certain about when the next meal is coming. But after his intervention, now you feel so empowered. And they like to hear those stories. It's also a sign that your project has made some impact, even though you can't generalize it because it's a pure qualitative study. Yeah. Then you will also use policy adoption matrices and you document them through the Ministry of Health records. Then have food and hunger indicator change. So you track the progress like I indicated. Now you've taken data at the baseline, in the middle, and at the end of your project. Now you're going to track what has changed over the course of time. So now you compare the baseline with the middle and the end indicators and see, oh, prevalence of food insecurity has reduced by this margin. Then after that, you write a comprehensive evaluation report, and then you disseminate it to all people involved. One of the key people should be the British Embassy in Ghana or the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, because they are the funder of your project.
Hello.
So this brings us to the end of the impact statement. In subsequent sessions, I would talk about the other parts of the essay. I mean, I can capture that in one session, but I feel this is where the change lies. This is where they choose between who to award a scholarship and who not to award. Thank you.
Thank you, Richmond. That was very informative and insightful. It was very concise as well. I think people have gotten whatever they want from this section, and it will help them to write their impact assessment. So we are going to open the floor again for questions. Martin, are you still here? If you have any question, you can ask. Okay, Richard again. Richard, you can ask your question. You can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. Wow, Richmond, I really appreciate your time, the way you take us through the journey of how to write the essay. I really love it. And one question that was running through my mind is that after successfully writing the essay, would there be any interview sessions, maybe if you are qualified? And my second question comes to, okay, sorry, I have a second question.
Yeah, go on.
So the second question is, do the government of Ghana have any impact on the application that you'll be doing? Maybe if you may need to add, let me say, some proof. For example, if you are gathering statistics or if you are putting statistics, I believe the reference will help, but maybe do the government have to work on maybe any document for you during application? Maybe if it will be required for you to be qualified or to have that kind of top priority among the applicants. Thank you.
All right. The first question was about interview. There were a few schools that previously used to do some sort of informal interview or formal interview. One of them was Queen Margaret University in Scotland, Edinburgh. But I think over time, they've stopped doing it because in my time, I got 2 nominations from them, but they didn't do any interview. Yeah. So generally, for Commonwealth Shared, no interview. But for regular masters, for Ghana, there's interview. Well, Clinton probably didn't mention that more because we all tend to come from the shared background. But just a brief, if you're applying for the regular masters, you submit an application to the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission using the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission application. Then you print out the application forms and send the copies to the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat together with your transcript, and your certificate. Then they would invite some people. So say 100 people submitted the applications. They invite 50 for interview. And that comes back to your next question about the government's involvement. So they invite 50 people. So the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat is the government of Ghana's representative unit that manages scholarships. So once they are involved in the masters, then obviously they are involved in the scholarship process, at least for the regular masters. So 100 people submit the applications, they go through them, they invite, say, 50 people, or maybe all 100 people, interview them, select 30 people, maybe out of 100, and then send the names of the 30 people to the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in London. So that's the first stage. You pass the interview, they shortlist some people, send their names to the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in London. Then the London people will now go through the application of only the 30 people. So if you had made an application and you were not called for interview by your local nominating agency, your application will not be reviewed at London. If you are called for interview but you are not shortlisted by the local nominating agency, like the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat. I know Nigeria also has their own nominating agencies in other countries. If they don't nominate you or if they don't shortlist you, it means although you sent your application already to London, it will not be reviewed. Yeah. So that is where interview comes in for regular masters, but for shared, it doesn't. You don't need any statistics from the government. There's a typical application by yourself. The research of what is the prevalence and whatever is with you. So you would have to do your research and find the statistics and all the indicators I've included in there. Yeah. And that is part of the whole process. Yeah. So that is it.
Okay.
Richard,
Thank you
have you
very
been
much.
answered? Okay.
Yes, thank you very much
All right. You're
for
welcome.
the
Sunday.
demonstration.
Okay.
Question. But I have a second question. I have another
Okay.
question from his presentation.
All right.
So if the Ghana Secretarian something have to also
Firstly,
go through
are there many
application.
people asking questions?
No, we have just one person after Richard.
So if the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat have to go through your scholarship application and approve it before it will even go to the main scholarship, the main Commonwealth Scholarship Committee, what criteria is involved for you even to get being selected at the Ghana Secretariat, Ghana Scholarship Secretariat, and the interview process? Criteria do they look out for from students before they can, before you be able to get that kind of approval? Thank you.
Thank you. Honestly, I don't know the criteria they use. What I know is what the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission uses, which Clinton presented. But as to what criteria local nominating agencies use, I don't know. Perhaps something that, yeah, so generally you would have to, I know you would have to meet the eligibility criteria, which is general for everyone. But what specific things they use in shortlisting people who have all met the criteria, I honestly don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, can I
Thank you,
speak now?
Richmond. Yeah, Sunday.
Okay, thank you, Richmond, for the nice presentation. When I read your impact essay, I saw a lot of in-text citation, and I have two questions in one. I want to know, so let's say I'm writing one and I did my own research and I put some in-text citation. Is it okay for me to add some references after my essay, or I can just leave it that way? That's question one. Then question two, I study geography and planning, and I specialize in remote sensing and GIS. And majority of my area of interest is around, although flooding in Nigeria and also oil impact on the environment. A majority of the oil well reserve is found in a particular location in Nigeria, which is the Niger Delta region. And I discovered that, so imagine someone working, maybe having the same research interest, we also talk about that. How can I make myself stand out of the crowd? Because I read through your impact list and I was very impressed. Like in the Niger Delta region, we have NDDC, which is called Niger Delta Development Commission. So after reading that, I've been able to see how I can fine tune maybe my essay to sink in what maybe they are doing, or some intervention that they are doing, so that I can stand from the crowd. How can I tailor my essay in such a way that it will capture the attention of whosoever that is reading it? Thank you.
Sunday, your first question about out text or bibliography. No, you don't have space to do that. You only have two underwords. And so there's no space to include out text. But in text gives them an idea that you're not just quoting the figures and whatever of it. If somebody is interested, they might be able to trace, even though it's just in text, but they might be able to trace to find out whether what you're saying is true or not. Yeah. So you shouldn't include bibliography in there. On the question about how to stand out, well, that would mean that you need to write a very compelling essay. The framework I use is what I have provided. So yes, so there's a typical framework for writing essays, but I also understand that the essays are not the only things that the essays are not the only things that they use in the assessment. Yeah, so you would do well in the essays following the guidelines I've provided, the format for writing the problem statement and all that. But you also do well to write all the other sections, which I'll talk about in a later date as well. How to even write your personal statement and stuff. Yeah, so you can use this framework to write competitive essay. But like I indicated, the scoring, there's a part which says as part of the assessment, which ask about the magnitude of the problem you're talking about. I'm trying to give two examples, but yeah, so two people might be writing the same thing. How one is able to tell the story to make it look touching might be different from how the other person. So imagine that I started my essay this way. Hunger affects 40% of Ghanaians. Then another person says, 4 out of 10 people in Ghana go to bed hungry. Just the starting would set the tone for the reader to see. Here, the same problem framed differently. The one that says 4 out of 10 makes it quite more realistic than saying hunger affects 40% of. I feel the tone is down, but the one who says 4 out of people go to bed without food has been able to, yeah. So these are techniques that come with time, with writing and experience. So it's hard to specifically say write it this way and get it, but this is the framework and it might work if you use it. Yeah.
Sunday, are you okay? So Richmond, we have two people in there.
Very, very okay. Very okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's fine. You're welcome. We have two more questions. I don't know whether you would like to take them together and answer it, or we should go one.
Yeah, that's fine.
You want to take them together? We have three now, so
Okay. Yeah, take them one after the other.
okay. Then Augustine.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I hope you don't mind my video is off, right?
Don't worry. Yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Richmond, I must say I'm very impressed. Like, I've been applying for scholarships for the past 3 years now, and it's been love letters. I guess Chevening applicants would relate, you know. So, I mean, like, I've seen so many loopholes in my application so far, and really you address them all, right? And I was also particular about the way you were so intentional about the kind of words you used, because that would actually go a long way to actually tell your intentions, you know. So I got that. So my question goes this way. I actually want to know, because these write-ups I'm seeing, like, it needs dedication, actually. You know, it's not something you just wake up one morning and then you are doing it. I mean, you would have taken days or probably weeks of research to actually come up with such kind of applications, right? So I want to know, like, how are you able to be in that proper state of mind to actually craft such application? I know it involves lots of research, but you know also, like, for us now, graduates, definitely we are busy with some other things, work and all that, right? So how do you, more like asking you, your psychological preparation for these kinds of applications, because I believe it needs such mindsets. So if you could share, I would really love to learn that too. Thank you.
Good. I remember my time. I made 12 applications and I got 9 nominations, and it really required time. Yes. So just around the time I was doing the application, I was also working, like you rightly said. Honestly, this is not something you can do in a few days, except somebody who has mastered the art of writing, which doesn't come so easy because it involves a lot of research, and you want to tell a story that makes yours compelling, even if somebody is telling the same thing in the same region or in the same country. Yeah. So you need time. I must say, you really need time. Another advice, you don't just apply to one school. I mean, Clinton or Smartin applying to one school and got it. But because of the competitive nature of it, you want to apply to as many schools as possible. Later on, I will tell you probably how you can work around that with just one essay. But it requires time. So if you're working full time, you might want to dedicate maybe 2 hours each day from now to whichever time you feel you've written the essay. And in my time, I started writing the essays, I think it was around April or thereabout, yes. I was also working full time. So when I have little time, go back to it. At the point, I have had to change the whole S application because I felt the initial one wasn't so strong. Yeah. So you need time to be reading, to be researching, listening to topical issues in your home country. So if I were writing the essays today, I probably would have, from a background in health, I would have written something related to the cutback in US aid and how that probably might affect HIV/AIDS or something, because it's one topical issue of recent time. I know a lot of people might have written about COVID-19 during 2020, 2021 sessions. Yeah, it doesn't mean you should always look for something topical to write about, but it should be a problem that a lot of people are concerned about, people are reading about, and you should have time to read, write, edit, rewrite. And if you have somebody who can also review for you, that is fine. Yeah. Don't write them
Sure.
all together at a time. So you might decide that today or this week, I'm just writing problem statement, and that is all. Because if you get a very good problem statement, the other part looks a bit easier. I mean, the other part of the impact statement. If you've written a very good problem, then certain your expected changes in those bullet points aren't difficult. Writing how you're going to apply the knowledge aren't difficult because you would have listed all the stakeholders you're going to work with in the problem statement. So you need time. So you might say this week I'm just using it to write problem. I'm searching for problem. I'm reading the literatures and books around that in your field, and then that works. Yeah. So that's my advice.
Yeah,
So can I
which one?
one last
I guess,
go?
please. Please, how many minutes do we have?
Can you give everyone the opportunity to ask question? Probably if you still
I'll
have
give them
time,
the,
then.
I just want them because I think
So
it's
the
an
team's meeting
hour
is
and 30
supposed to
minutes.
last 5 hours.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
you need not worry. I think we have like
Okay.
1 hour 30 minutes more.
All right, that's fine. I guess
Yeah.
then you can come in. You can come in.
Thank you. So thank you for that. I really understand that and I appreciate that also. So my last question is about there's a difference between writing from a place of experience and probably from a place of imagination, right? So for example, now most of our applications has to do with the relevancy pertaining to our prior field of study. You understand? So we want to actually further our studies with respect to a build up on our first degree. more like saying a relevant degree as well as work experience, right? So that they could align better. Now, what advice do you have for someone who is actually probably working in a very different sector, probably has no relevant working experience relating to the application he or she is making? So how do you come up with such application that would be convincing and compelling as much?
Yeah, there was a lady in our time from Nigeria. She also had multiple nominations. She had actually switched from real estate to something in environmental science or something. Yeah, so it's possible to switch from one field, maybe from your BSc to another thing in the master's. But that will mean that you must be able to write a very compelling essay justifying why you're making a switch from one end. Likewise, for somebody who has masters already and wants to apply for the Commonwealth Scholarship, you should also be able to write and convince the commission why you want to take another master's, especially if it is the same. So imagine that I have done, say, master's in public health back in Ghana and write an application for another master's in public health at, say, Leeds or Newcastle or Glasgow or Cambridge. Then the question will be, why do you want to do the same program twice at the same level? Yeah. So it's about being able to convince them why a career switch. Perhaps because you went to, yes, I studied, say, medicine. Then after the program, I worked in a different sector. And then during my time there, I identified the problem. I got some skills. I felt there's an area that I can contribute to, and it aligns with what I want to do in the future. It doesn't take away the fact that I have studied medicine at the undergraduate level, but there's a new identified area that I want to build on. And so this is what I want to do. Yeah. So even if you're not working in the sector where you trained at your undergraduate level, where you're working at the moment, if you want to go in that line for your master's, then it could be that the experience you got from there is what you build now. Likewise, if you, so I'll tell you in a later one how you might want to write your, so there's a question that asks you about your professional experience and your responsibilities and that. Even if it doesn't align with what you studied or what you want to study, there are ways of crafting something to fit in. Yeah, so we'll talk about that later on. Yeah, so maybe I trained in health. Now I'm working as a teacher. So working as a teacher, I've developed certain skills which are relevant to, say, public health program I am applying. I've developed skills in working with diverse teams. I've gotten skills in addressing or solving problems. I've gotten skills in communications. Yeah, so maybe teaching doesn't relate to the medicine or health I studied at the first degree, but the skills I've gotten from that experience aligns with what I'm going to do in the UK and how I'm even going to apply that knowledge when I come back. So when I come back and I'm working in the field, like I presented the problem, I will need skills for collaboration, for coordination. I need skills to be able to communicate effectively, skills that I have gained from teaching, not from my undergraduate training in health or medicine. Yeah, so there's a way of weaving the essays to fit in each section.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. Thank you.
Okay, Augustine, to add a little to your first question about the time needed to write your essays, I think, as you rightly said, you can't use just 2 days to write the essays. You need time. And I'm very thankful to Richmond. This is not a platform to thank you because he was my coach. He reviewed my essays. You need time. Like, it took me 4 months to write the essays, and you need someone to review it. Sometimes you think you've written the best essay, but when someone reviews it for you, then you get to know the loopholes, what you need to remove, what you need to add up. So always get someone to review your essays for you, no matter how good you are. That is another advice. Get someone to review your essays.
Thank you.
Okay, I think at this point there will be a little bias. Son of Grace, you've asked the question, so I'm going to pick the female, Esther, before Son of Grace. Esther, you can unmute to ask your question.
4 months to write essay. Wow.
Esther. If Esther is not there, then I'm going back to. Okay. Son of Grace, I think you have to ask your question. Esther is not available.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Richmond, for your presentation. I really like your presentation. The question I want to ask is, with the look of things and following your presentations very well, it seems like the scholarship is based on how well you can express yourself in your essay. And then moreover to how well after the scholarship you are going to give back to your community or the country in which you are coming from. So is it all about that or there's something else attached to it? Thank you very much.
Okay, so the objective for the program is to train you in UK, come back to your country, and solve the problem you said you're going to solve. So it's about telling them this is a problem. It needs to be solved. I've got the interest, but I don't have the skill. Can you train me? And when I'm done, I'll come back and solve it. Then they say, okay, you train you. You provide you all the things you need. Come study at Cambridge. When you're done, go back to your country and solve it. So it's about being able to tell them there's a problem. You need a skill. Then providing you with a skill and then going back. Yeah. So on paper, it should be realistic, even if it's not something you would do. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you very much for your answer.
Okay, you're welcome. Is Esther still here? Esther. Esther Pavia, ask your question. Okay. I think that will be all if Esther is not available. We don't have any questions in the chat box as well. But Richmond, they're asking for the slide, your slide. I don't know if you're going to put it here.
Slide, let me check the size. The other time I sent a wrong slide.
And the recording as well. Clinton,
The recording must be of Clinton.
Okay.
Oh, the slide is
recording.
Do you have anything to add? Clinton, do you have anything to add?
Oh, I mean, Richmond has said everything. I remember when I was applying for the Commonwealth. So I got to know about the Commonwealth in November. Yeah, it was just 2 weeks to the deadline or something. Yeah, something of a sort. And so I didn't have a lot of time to prepare my essays, and I also thought that I needed only one school. And luckily for me, I had those 2 weeks. I was able to wake up at dawn every morning just to write my essays. Didn't have anyone review it for me, and because of financial constraints, I wasn't able to apply to many schools because my thinking was that they were going to pay for application fees. And so I applied to just one school, and then luckily I got through. And because at the time I was applying to PhD programs, and so I had a fair idea as to how to write a research proposal and then following a plan and, developing a timeline over which you'd be able to implement everything you are saying in your proposal. So, yeah, to me, I didn't really have a long time to write it, and because of prior experience of writing research proposals, I was able to get through it quite well. Yeah. And so it was very impressive to know that Richmond had 9 nominations, yeah. And that's very good, very commendable. So yeah, I mean, everything he said was on point, and with the remaining part of the essays that he's left to, cover would be organizing hopefully another one to finish up with those ones.
Okay, that's fine. So my little experience, Richmond was my guide. He guided me. So if you apply for 12, basically I'm also going to do same. So I also did same. I applied to a lot of schools. Then hopefully I got nominated for St. Mary. Yes, St. Mary's University. So the thing is, I believe if you have the energy, if you have the willpower to apply, I think you should do it, and you should start early. You shouldn't wait till last minute, like 2 weeks. You should start writing your essays now, because applications will be open in December. So when you start, we are in June. When you start now, you have ample time to write, review, add up, subtract, get people to also review for you, and I think you'll go a long way. Richmond, I've seen 2 people in the Son of God. I think
let them.
May you still have your hands up. I don't know whether you have another question. But we have Esther. Esther Oyineye. Esther, you can unmute. Okay. I don't know why the Esthers are not talking. Esther Fabia. Esther Oniyeni.
She says the microphone doesn't support it or something.
Really?
Yeah.
So maybe
Esther,
what she can do is to type her question in the chat box, and yeah.
Come on, the next question is, when is the next session?
You would have to, maybe you would have to think about that as well. Or Clinton, what do you suggest?
Yeah, it should be.
And please, will you help us with essay review? If yes, how can we send our essays and get feedback from Benjamin?
That must be a very well. At the moment, I'm not so certain about the number of people I'll be able to do that for, because the requests keep coming. I feel, well, let's see. Maybe after you've gone through all the sessions, and then I prefer to go through all the sessions first. So over the last week, people have sent me the essays. I said, oh, let's go through the session. Then they insisted, well, whatever comments I'm going to make, it's exactly the same presentations I'm going to do. So it's good to go through the session, and then we can talk about the review later on. Yeah. I'm trying to send the file, but it appears it's not going to work.
How big is your file?
So I've sent in a Google Drive. So you're able to see it.
Okay,
Able
okay,
to see
that's
it.
fine. Microsoft Defender. I think we have a hand raised up for a question.
I said, it's son of Grace. I don't know whether he still have other question. He asked the question. I don't know whether son of Grace. You still have your hand raised. I don't know. In the absence of no question, I think we'll bring the webinar to an end. Or you have Clinton and Richmond. Do you have anything to say again?
So what I would have to say is that first of all, before I move to the things, we'll try and then organize another session for Richmond to finish up everything that he's been talking about, and I also add a couple of things to that. Hopefully we'll be able to transition from a general overview of the whole scholarship package to actually writing the essays and everything that is included in there. What I'll do is to also draft an essay, or at least a series of essays, so that we have diversification of essays from different background and field, so that we'll be able to look at how from different angles you can write your essays and then get a very good response. So yeah, that is what I have to say, and we'll try to think about a new date for the third part of the webinar. And thank you guys for showing up. I know it's late in your part of the world, and thank you for for staying up late. I still think that it's still sun is shining so bright around here. So yeah, thank you guys for staying up late.
All right. Richmond. Oh, she's just standing.
Well, I don't have anything to say.
Okay. Sorry. So on behalf of my team and I, we thank everyone for joining, and we wish you the best of luck in your essays. Hoping to see each and everyone in the UK next year. Okay, so the next, and I think.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, just as we've got
All
the
right.
flyers,
Thank you.
we will still really
Bye bye.
Bye. Good night,
Bye.
good morning, good afternoon. So wherever you find yourself, bye. Bye. Son of God, your son.
It's still afternoon. It's still afternoon in the US, Clinton.
Yeah, it's still
good
afternoon
afternoon,
here.
Clinton. Good night to my Nigerian friends. Good night, my Ghanaian friends as well. Bye. That was long.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I
really
think 4 hours.
But Clinton, you do well. I can't speak for 2 hours. I can't speak for 2 hours.
Well, it wasn't really 2 hours, was it?
Yeah. 8, 7:30.
And I feel like it got to a time I was coughing because I could feel it because there was no water here.
Oh, sorry.
God bless you.
And I feel like the undergrads I work with, they came around here and then they were signaling me. I think they've messed up in the lab, so I need to. Yeah. If you leave them for 30 minutes, they do what they want. Okay, so.
Then I think you should get back.
Yeah, I just want everyone to find their way out. Just see everyone off here nicely.
No,
so
some comments are not necessary in the comment section.
Who said what?
Abu, comment.
Some comments are not necessary. Okay.
Clinton.
Yeah.
Abu.
Yes, this Jones.
Oh, Sir Jones. Oh,
Yes, yes,
nice,
yes,
nice,
yes,
nice,
yes.
Sir
I
Jones.
joined, all the
Oh,
way
nice, nice.
from
It's nice to
Ghana.
have you. It's been a
I joined
long
from
time.
Richie.
6:30.
Abu
And
Osha.
I've been following.
Charlie, I do.
I've been
Yeah,
following.
Charlie, that
it's
was a
been good.
nice
It's been good to
presentation. You
hear from
guys,
you.
you've really
It's been
murdered
good to
the
hear from
whole
you.
section.
How are the kids?
Oh, by God's grace, they are all doing well. They are all
Yeah,
doing well.
that's good. That's good.
Okay.
I've been meaning to
Charlie, we'll
call
talk
you
back
guys
up.
too.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
Been meaning
Yeah.
to call you guys, so yeah, we'll try and then
All
maybe
right.
on Monday or Tuesday, just let them know that I'll be calling.
All right. All right.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. God bless you.
Okay. Yeah, amen,
Bye-bye.
amen.
Hi guys, my name is Sylvester. Thank you very much. It was insightful.
Oh, Bacha. Is that Bacha?
You're welcome.
Oh, nice, 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 Bacha. It's good to hear from you.
We have a lot of link up to do. Now and it's on the
Yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah, we do, we do.
You guys are doing very well. Very, very well. Challenge. It's not easy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
For paving the way for others to also join. Bless you guys.
Mhm.
I believe it will continue. It will be a one-time thing, you know. If it's
Mhm.
every quarter you put something together. Because as you started earlier, you need people to guide you, otherwise you're stranded. You might know the process, but
Exactly,
you need
exactly.
people to direct you. Charlie, Obebre. That's how we say in Ghana,
Mm,
Obebre.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Charlie, let me you guys.
Yeah,
By the
yeah.
way,
I'll try to organize a group call for the class again.
wow,
Yeah, yeah.
one of these days. Okay. Charlie, the experiment is pending. Go check on them.